Buckeye Nation, it's your boy, Darren Lee here, a.k.a. The Manimal. I need y'all to follow.
Once considered one of football's most promising young defenders, now charged with murder tonight. Authorities in Tennessee say one-time New York Jets linebacker Darron Lee has been arrested and charged with killing his girlfriend.
On February 5th, 2026, in a quiet neighborhood in Ooltewah, Tennessee, a 911 call came in at 1:34 in the afternoon. Someone needed help. CPR was in progress. When deputies and paramedics rushed the home on Snow Cone Way, they found a woman's body. She was already gone. And standing there, trying to explain what happened, was former NFL linebacker Darron Lee. But before we dive into what really happened that day, if you're new to Shadow Crime, hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss a case. We cover the stories that need to be told, the ones that expose the truth hiding behind closed doors. Now, let's get into this. Darron Lee wasn't just anyone. This was a guy who had it all, or at least that's what it looked like from the outside. He played for Ohio State, won a national championship in 2014, and was a defensive MVP of the Sugar Bowl. In 2016, the New York Jets drafted him in the first round, 20th overall. He was living the dream. 3 years with the Jets. Then he went to Kansas City Chiefs and got a Super Bowl ring when they won Super Bowl 54. He also had stints with the Buffalo Bills and Las Vegas Raiders. This was a man who had talent, money, and a future that most people could only imagine. But behind all that success, there was something darker brewing, something that had been building for years. Let me take you back to October 2022. Lee was accused of assaulting the mother of his child. According to reports, he threw a phone at her head so hard it made her ear bleed. He grabbed her by the neck. And even though he punched a pillow next to her head instead of her face, the message was clear. The red marks on her neck told the story of violence that was just getting started. Then in April 2023, things escalated even more. This time, it was his own mother. Lee allegedly pushed her against the wall, threw her to the floor, and then struck her face and head 8 to 9 times with his closed fists. 8 to 9 times. Let that sink in for a moment. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a moment of lost control. This was sustained, deliberate violence against a woman who gave him life. You'd think after something like that, there would be serious consequences, right? But here's where the system failed. In February 2025, just about a year before this woman would die in his home, Darron Lee took a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of aggravated assault and possession of a counterfeit controlled substance. He got 90 days in jail, but 88 of those days were suspended. He was placed on probation through February 2027. Essentially, he walked away with a slap on the wrist.
Once considered one of football's most promising young defenders, now charged with murder tonight. Authorities in Tennessee say one-time New York Jets linebacker Darron Lee has been arrested and charged with killing his girlfriend. News Nation's Leah Lando is live tonight breaking down the case and what the former defensive star is facing now. Leah.
Natasha, Darron Lee is charged with first-degree murder in the death of his girlfriend. Her identity is not being released, and police say that he was arrested Thursday in Tennessee. Officials say when they arrived at the scene, they did try to save the victim, but they say they were unsuccessful. The 31-year-old former Ohio State linebacker played with the Jets, Kansas City, and Buffalo. That was from 2016 through 2020. Lee was a standout at Ohio State. He went on to play 58 games with the Jets, the Chiefs, and the Buffalo Bills before leaving the league. He was also named defensive MVP of the 2015 Sugar Bowl. Court records show he was previously arrested in 2023 on assault and domestic violence charges. Now, Thursday, he was charged with murder, tampering with evidence, and police say more charges could be pending related to the death of his girlfriend as the investigation is ongoing, and he is due back in court February 11th. Natasha.
Leah Lando tracking these details for us as they come down. Thank you. Well,
and that's the thing that gets me every single time we cover cases like this. The warning signs were flashing bright red. The pattern was there. The violence was documented. But somehow, the consequences never matched the crime. And now, less than a year after that plea deal, a woman is dead. So what actually happened on February 5th? Let's walk through what investigators found, because Lee's story started falling apart the moment deputies began looking around that house. When they arrived, Lee told them he found his girlfriend unconscious on the couch. He said he thought maybe she had fallen in the shower. A tragic accident, right? That's what he wanted them to believe. But here's the problem with that story. Everything at the scene contradicted it. First off, there was broken glass in the kitchen. Blood evidence was found in multiple areas of the house, not just near the shower or the couch where he claimed to find her. And the amount of blood, the location of it, none of it matched up with someone simply falling in a shower. Then forensic testing revealed something even more damning. Blood had been cleaned from several areas of the home. Someone had actively tried to wipe away evidence. Someone had tried to hide what really happened. But you can't hide everything, can you? Especially when the victim's body tells its own story. The woman had injuries that were absolutely brutal. We're talking about a 1-inch stab wound to her abdomen, a large dark bruise on her head. Both eyes were black with heavy swelling. Multiple bruises covered her arms and torso. There was dry blood on her face and neck. And here's something that made my stomach turn when I read it. There was a circular human bite mark on her shoulder. A bite mark. Think about the level of rage, the level of violence it takes to bite another human being during an assault. Does any of that sound like someone who fell in the shower? Of course not. Now, let's talk about Darren Lee's appearance when deputies detained him. Remember, he's claiming he just found her like this, that he tried to help. But when officers looked at him more closely, they saw scratches all over his face, his hands, and his chest. The kind of scratches you get when someone is fighting for their life, when they're desperately trying to defend themselves. And when they collected his phone, they found blood inside the protective case. When detectives tried to question him about all of this, Lee immediately invoked his rights and refused to talk. Which, look, everyone has a right to remain silent. That's not guilt in itself. But combined with everything else, the cleaned up blood, the injuries on his body, the victim's horrific wounds, the picture becomes pretty clear. Deputies also found alcohol and narcotics and a firearm inside the residence during their search. This wasn't just a crime scene. This was a place where violence had been waiting to explode.
The department released the name of the person arrested for an active death investigation in Ooltewah.
Local 3's Madison Sims is live in the neighborhood with this new information. Madison, fill us in.
Cindy, we've been here for several hours in this Ooltewah neighborhood trying to figure out the details of the death investigation, and we did just find out that the suspect in this case is 31-year-old Darren Lee. Now, the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office released a statement sharing that they responded to a call of an individual performing CPR, and once they arrived, they found that the female victim was deceased. We spoke to neighbors in this neighborhood to figure out what exactly they knew before we had the opportunity to get this information.
We were on our way out to go somewhere, and we were backing out, and we happened to look down there and saw these police cars and thought, oh my goodness, what's going on?
Just after 1 o'clock Thursday afternoon, Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to a home on Snowcone Way in Ooltewah for a death investigation. One of the residents we spoke with lives just a few doors down from the home. She tells us a couple lived there and they had only moved in just a few weeks prior. This individual declined to do the interview on camera, so we won't be sharing her identity.
As I was backing out, I looked down there and I saw a very tall man with handcuffs on behind his back, and police were escorting him out. And then I couldn't see anymore. They went behind a car.
That resident shared this footage from her home's Ring camera with Local 3 News. In it, you can see an ambulance and sheriff's deputy vehicles leaving the home. Later that evening, law enforcement is still seen there. Now, we're also learning that Lee is facing the following charges: tampering with evidence and first-degree murder. He is in custody at the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, and as we learn more, we're going to be sharing that on air and online. As of right now, the victim in this case will not be identified until her family has been made aware. Reporting in Ooltewah, Madison Sims, Local 3 News.
Darren Lee was arrested right there at the scene and charged with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. He's currently being held without bond at Hamilton County Prison, and his court date was set for February 11th, just days after the incident. As of now, authorities say additional charges may still be coming as the investigation continues. But here's what really gets under my skin about this whole situation. The victim's identity still hasn't been released. Her family hasn't been notified yet, or at least that's what officials are saying. So this woman, who suffered unimaginable violence in her final moments, doesn't even have her name attached to her story yet. She's just being called Lee's girlfriend in all the reports. She deserves more than that. She deserves to be remembered as a person, not just as a victim in someone else's crime. And I keep coming back to those previous incidents. The mother of his child in 2022, his own mother in 2023. Both times, these women reported violence. Both times there was documentation. Both times, the system had a chance to stop this before it went further. But that plea deal in February 2025 basically told Darren Lee that his violence had no real consequences. 2 days in jail for beating his mother's face 8 to 9 times? What kind of message does that send? Now, I'm not saying the legal system is directly responsible for what happened on February 5th. Darren Lee made his own choices. But we have to ask ourselves, how many times do we let someone's pattern of violence slide before we take it seriously? How many women have to get hurt before we recognize that domestic violence almost always escalates? Because it does escalate. The research shows it. The statistics prove it. And this case is yet another tragic example. The NFL hasn't commented on Lee's arrest. His career effectively ended years ago anyway after his release from the Raiders in 2021. But you have to wonder how many people around him saw the signs. How many people knew about his temper, his history, his violence, and said nothing. So now we're left with these questions that don't have easy answers. What makes someone who had every advantage, every opportunity, every reason to be grateful for the life they've been given, turn to violence against the people closest to them? How does someone go from being a national champion, a first-round draft pick, a Super Bowl winner, to standing in a home with a dead woman and scratches all over his body from her trying to fight him off? And maybe the bigger question is this. How many more cases like this will it take before we start believing women the first time they report abuse? How many more plea deals will we hand out to violent offenders before we realize that mercy without accountability isn't justice? It's just giving someone permission to hurt again. I want you to sit with those questions for a moment. Really think about them. Because this isn't just about one former NFL player. This is about a system that fails to protect victims until it's too late. If this case made you think, if it made you feel something, do me a favor. Leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Hit that like button if you want to see more cases covered with this level of depth. And subscribe to Shadow Crime if you haven't already, because we're not going to stop telling these stories. Someone has to.